What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Greyman Operations. In this video, I'm going to be doing a comparison with the new Canik Mete SF, or the newest SF model, and the original Canik Mete SF TP9 Mete SF. Believe it or not, there are 12 differences between these two pistols. And most of them are not merely cosmetic, which I do really appreciate from Canik. I appreciate that they upgraded their pistol with more than just cosmetic upgrades. I'm going to flip the view in a second, top down. We're going to talk about everything Canik related. As you know, I am giving away one of these pistols at the end of October to one of my patrons as a way of saying thank you to my patrons for their loyal support. Now, if you want to join on Patreon, it's the first link below if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you'll find the link in the comments. Guys, I am going to be doing another one of these giveaways within the next few months, maybe even before the end of the year. I am going to do this giveaway and all my firearm giveaways in a manner where the amount of months that you were a patron is equal to the amount of entries you get in the competition. This is such a big giveaway that I feel like those who have been around for the longest deserve some advantage, and those who stick around deserves to get an advantage for the next round. Okay guys, so the table is a bit of a mess, but I was playing around with things and I thought, you know what, let's just be organic and show you what the real world is like. So this is the old Canik TP9 Mete SF, and this is the new Canik Mete SF. I'm going to take you through these firearms top to bottom and point out all the differences. There are like a dozen differences between these two firearms. Guys, obviously I'm going to be manipulating these things, so I just want to show you it is empty and safe, so don't freak out. It's a bit difficult to do this on camera without pointing it at certain things, so we are absolutely safe. The first place I want to start, by the way, oh, what is this? I'm already sidetracked. This is the King Cobra with my SFX, and X300. It's empty, don't worry. X300. Whew. That's scary, right? Whew, that's scary. Okay, anyway, like I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted, let's start off on the top. Now, the very first thing that you'll notice is on my new Canik Mete SF, I've got the Siley Ghost optic. Now, the important thing to note about this optic is that this is an RMR footprinted optic, whereas on the original or older Canik Mete SF, I've got the Canik M01, which is an RMSC footprinted optic. Both of these firearms come cut for the Shield RMSC footprint. So if you want to mount an optic natively to the firearm, the Shield RMSC direct mounts. However, the difference is with the new Mete SF, the actual optic cutout is longer lengthwise down the length of the slide than with the original. And what that means is you can fit multiple different optic plates. In fact, the reason my SFX is here is because the cut on the SFX and the cut on the new Mete SF are the same. So pretty much any optic is now mountable to, oops, I've got the wrong one, is now mountable to the new Canik Mete SF as long as you have the required optic plate. And I can also tell you that SA Laser Engraving here in South Africa, they make the required optic plate for pretty much any footprinted optic. So if you are running a unique optic, contact them and they should be able to hook you up with an optic that you can mount on your Mete SF that should allow you to mount pretty much any optic out there. Now guys, another difference is you'll notice the original TP9 Mete SF has 3 slide serrations. The newer version has 4, or call it front cocking serrations. The newer one has 4, the original has 3. Also, you'll notice that the slide on the newer one is slightly longer than the slide on the original. And I'm actually going to show you this, so is the barrel. So as you can see, if we line these two barrels up pretty much perfectly, the new Mete SF barrel is ever so slightly longer. So both the slide and the barrel on the new Mete SF is slightly longer than on the original, and these two are lined up like perfectly. I like the fact that the upgrade is a real upgrade. There's actual tangible changes. In terms of the iron sights on them, they are both exactly the same steel iron sights, and maybe it's best if I show you on this one. The rear sight has a forwardish cut, so if you aren't running a red dot, you can use this little ledge to manipulate the firearm off of if you do need to do one-handed manipulations, which is something that I actually really appreciate. Now onto the frame. The new Mete SF has this little square cutout. Believe it or not, that is actually a holster retention cutout. It's there so that when people make holsters for just the firearm without the light, they can indent the holsters over there, so there's a locking cutout in the actual frame of the firearm itself. You'll see the original doesn't have that, which I think is an amazingly cool touch. The frame of the original is also like more polished, like and I know it sounds like it's a good thing, but it's actually not. The frame of the original is very smooth. It's like a satiny smooth kind of polished plastic or polymer, whatever it is, whereas the newer Mete SF is a more matte and slightly rougher finish. It's very, very subtle, but you can feel the difference in the texture, and obviously you do want as grippy a texture on the firearm as you can possibly get. So I do much prefer the frame texture of the new one over the frame texture of the old one, which, as you can, I'm sure you can see, it's like a bit of a polished texture. Now in terms of the tear down lever, which is this over here, the newer one has a more pronounced tear down lever, slightly more pronounced tear down lever than the original. The square or rectangle itself on the new one is a bit smaller, but it's more pronounced outwardly, so it's easier to get your thumbs on there to grip when you do want to tear your firearm down for your basically your normal field stripping and cleaning. Then the triggers, now my original TP9 Mete SF has the Canik performance trigger, but when you buy them, they're going to both have the exact same trigger, Canik's world famous amazing trigger. Personally, I think it's got to be the best standard trigger that I've ever tried. If you buy a Canik, the one thing you do not need to upgrade is the trigger. The slide lock levers are both pretty much identical. I couldn't find any differences between those. And then a really nice feature is on the newer one, as standard, you get a double trigger guard undercut. You'll see there's a flat bit there and an indented bit over there. Whereas on the original, this is actually one of the few things that the original has that the newer one doesn't, but it's something I've never used. You don't get any trigger guard undercut, but you get a trigger guard safety. Now this is more the kind of safety you'd use when you want to store your firearm. I've literally never used this safety. So if you wanted to know which one of these two I would definitely take, I would much prefer the double trigger guard undercut. I really appreciate that Canik does that, because it's pretty much a modification everyone does to their firearms that don't have trigger guard undercuts. Both firearms have the exact same striker status indicator. I'm going to drop the striker on my newer Mete SF to show you that striker status indicator. We are empty, guys, so don't worry. And then over there is a loaded chamber indicator, which lifts up when you have a chambered round, and you can feel that, and it's got like a little red mark on it, so you can visually see it. Those are both exactly the same on both firearms. The grip texture on both is very similar, although I find the new one to be slightly more rough. And you'll notice on the front part of the grip, the new one has this sandpapery style texture, whereas the original has the dotted pyramid style on the front and on the back. And then coming down to the bottom, the new one has a much better magwell. This magwell comes as standard when you buy the new Mete SF. Everything you've seen here, except for this red dot, comes as standard when you buy the new Mete SF. It's got a much better magwell, in my opinion, than the original, and I can definitely tell you in this configuration, the new grip is, this one here is, the grip is substantially better than this one. It's something you won't know until you've held them both in your hand. When you hold this in your hand for the first time, it feels great. It feels perfectly fine. Then you pick up this. I think this grip is slightly thinner. I'm sure it is, man. It's got to be slightly thinner because the length is slightly the same, and the inclusion of that trigger guard undercut and the better Magwell just means holding the gun in your hand it's really comfortable. And obviously Canik, as you know, has that excellent grip angle where your natural body extension just lines the sight up perfectly. I prefer it over Glock and Glock's grip angle, but I can definitely tell you that the grip in the hand of the newer one, I can't see anyone disagreeing with me on this, feels much better than the grip in the hand of the original. And I feel like when I shoot this, I have more recoil control. It's the very first time I've ever felt that way about any gun other than my SFX, which is obviously a big full-size sucker. But the new Mete SF is that perfect balance between a full-sized frame and a compact frame. It just feels ever so slightly bigger. And then with regards to holsters, guys, as long as your holster has an open front, I find that it fits. Like this is the new SF in a Southwest Holsters Rattler, and if I put the old one in there, you'll see it's just slightly shorter in length. So if you do have a holster for your original SF, as long as the front is open, your new SF will fit in there. This is the King Cobra and fits the new one, and then the old one fits exactly the same, but it's just a bit shorter. So holster wise it's the same, and then obviously we've got two mags here. One of these from the old one and one of these from the new one, and they are 100% interchangeable. So guys, that is the differences as I see it. I try to be as comprehensive and objective as I possibly could. Remember, these firearms were empty and safe and are empty and safe throughout the whole video. So if you found me having to move it in an odd, awkward direction, remember I'm doing this on a camera, so I've got to work with the camera, but we are safe. I've been doing this for many years. The new Mete SF is definitely an upgrade over the original, which I really, like I said, I really appreciate. So if you do have this one and you want to pull the trigger on the next firearm, don't be shy to get this. You're not getting the exact same thing. You are definitely getting an upgrade, which I really appreciate. Again, guys, if you want in on the competition to win one of these at the end of October, please consider joining us on Patreon. That is it. I will see you guys next week for another review. Have a good week. Be safe. Train hard. Cheers. God bless.